Okay, welcome to my backyard. I'm going to give you a quick tour, give you a panoramic view. We're looking right past my screen porch. I'm out on the deck. And you can see my wisteria on the side. I've got the amethyst, and this that has not bloomed is burgundy wisteria. And in the background you can see my neighbor's azaleas and my azaleas. Lots of azaleas in the plantings that flank this particular yard. And then on in the background, my tree house and my trampoline, and of course my beautiful Ladybanks rose, which we're going to go take a look at, and my other plantings that are in this area. So we're going to go down and we're going to take a quick look at my area down there. Now you can see some pink blooms on this plant straight ahead, and this plant is called a Wygelia, and it does pretty well in shaded areas. It's partially shaded, and it's also got some sun that hits it as well. In the background you can see my blueberry bushes. The birds usually get them, but hey, that's okay. It does give me enough blueberries to get by. And this is a sunny area here, so I do have most of my roses are in this area. I don't have much of a sunny garden. Okay, and then of course you've got azaleas. You've got a beautiful, big, huge white one, and a big, huge red one. And these were the original plantings, the only original plantings that were in this yard. And then as you turn, you see my puppy, my handsome puppy, and my Ladybanks rose. My Ladybanks rose is just gorgeous. She's covered with blooms, and I put her in several years ago, and she has taken over the yard. She is majestic. She blooms once a year, and this is it. It's a big show. Absolutely beautiful. Now, of course, she is part of a yard that is a tiered garden, and I have all sorts of different plants in there, some for color, and some because they bloom beautifully. Obviously have my annual planting of pansies and tulips. Many of the tulips have long since bloomed out, but that's okay. You can still see them. And all sorts of plants in here, including a snowball bush. If you look over, you can see the white snowballs of my snowball bush. It has never done real well, but it's slowly coming in. All sorts of plants in here. Daffodils have long since bloomed out, as you can see. The irises are beautiful white ones, and they've long since bloomed out. That's an indigo plant, and it blooms purple. And of course, I've got lavender and sage in here, and I do have the rabbit ears to add some color. And then these are yellow chrysanthemums for the fall. They do a really good job. Okay, now I'm making the curve here. You can see I've got a hydrangea garden, and I've got whites and pinks and blues, and of course a oak leaf hydrangea down in here. And this particular bed is a beautiful bed. It contains spiderwort, that's the chartreuse color, and it's just starting to bloom. I'll get you a close-up. It's a beautiful purple bloom. Nice tall flowers, and it will look very pretty. Now beside it is a euchera, or coral bells, and it's a purple color. And then that one little green plant is called Gerbinia, and it has not done so well. It's been there for a couple of years, and it has never bloomed, so I think it's time to maybe replace it this year. We'll see. Of course, I've got lots of daffodils long since bloomed out, my very deep pink and light pink azaleas. More azaleas here. It's more of a purpley pink color. And then I've got like the lilac pink color here, as well as a really pretty white dogwood. I had a white dogwood in the other bed. It died. I've just got to get back to adding something. In the background you see my trampoline, and of course a gardener's best friend. They're compost bins. Now my poor trampoline looks a little beat up, if you can see. And if you can see way in the background, you look at a tree that looks like it exploded. Well, essentially it did. It exploded and fell on my trampoline. So I replaced the trampoline top and the bottom. And I've just got to get some replacement poles because they were severely bent when the tree fell in the middle of it. So now this particular plant, as you come along, is a spirea. But its common name is bridal veil, and you can see why. It does look like a bridal veil. It's covered with zillions of beautiful white flowers, and it is quite showy. It is. Now right up above this plant, this is a beautiful bed that I have here. This bed is not filled in yet. It's filled with all sorts of different plants. Let's see, there's a peony that you can see, lots of lilies, daffodils that were in there, irises, daisies, black-eyed Susans, and then in the shaded part you can see some hostas and a tree fern and that sort of thing, and on into some others over here. But I wanted to show you this. This is my plant. I plant this eucalyptus tree. I plant them in every house I've owned in the South. Now right now he looks pretty ugly, but usually he's a beautiful smelling, like a nice bluish color, blue hazy color. Right now he's all brown because there was a lot of ice this winter in the South, and it kind of did him in, but he'll come back. So that's my eucalyptus, and they always lean, and they always have issues, unfortunately, but they're beautiful. Now this particular plant in the background that you see with the spires of yellow flowers, that is called an Easter rose, but the real name is Carya japonica. It blooms at Easter. It's usually very showy, and it's also incredibly invasive, and I have dug it out and given it to many friends because it takes over the bed, and this bed actually is usually filled with elephant ears, but they don't come up till later. And in the bench area right up here, I have black elephant ears. So I've got green elephant ears in the background and black elephant ears. Now in the back of this, that are outside of my beds, that was a gift from my mother, the two plants that are there. Those are buckeyes, and they're very beautiful. And then here, you can see I have a planting of rhododendrons. I have white and then a deep red, almost blood red, that is absolutely gorgeous. Now up above, I have a pink dogwood, and I have one bloom on this pink dogwood, and you can see it, it's right there. Barely see my pink dogwood. So, and he is actually flanked, as they mostly are, by azaleas. This is a light pink azalea, but in the background you can see my neighbor's medium pink azaleas. He's got a gorgeous set of azaleas that go the whole way around his yard, and they actually call it Amen Corner when it takes the turn. And around the time when the Masters is played, they certainly have a show. Now this bed is filled with annuals, and I also have ferns, sensitive ferns that the dog is walking through right now, my insensitive dog. And then as you move on, I've got another bed here that's also flanked with more azaleas. That one has already bloomed out, but I have a bright pink one and a white one here, and then those are Lenten roses. I've got white, and I've got red, and then in the foreground you can see shamrock plants, green shamrock plants, and then I have the purple shamrock plants. And in addition, the yellowy green color is from a hosta. So this particular bed also has some euchera that haven't come up, and some ferns that haven't come up, and then this is a gardenia plant, and he won't bloom probably until about mid-June. Around here. Then in here you can see more plantings that are yet coming in. Black-eyed Susans. I've got a stilby, which tends to like the shade a little bit, and then more shaded plants in here with a hosta. And then you can barely see the comings out of my autumn fern, and he is gorgeous. He is a beautiful fern, and I usually flank him with caladiums. And so that way I have the whitish green of the hosta, a bright red caladium, and then the brown of the fern. So in the background, I've got more beds, and you can see my dog's getting ready to play. And then I have a cherry tree that I just planted this year. There's my cherry tree, and hopefully one day he'll grow up and be big and tall. And he is right next to my hot tub, which is flanked by my wisteria. Now the wisteria is almost bloomed out, but boy, what a show it put on this year. And you can see the remnants of my wisteria down on the ground. And then, of course, you can also see my other plantings, including the love of my life, tulips. More tulips, 200 bulbs or more I plant every year. And that's okay. They're an annual in the South. They just don't stay. So, all right. Now moving to my final bed that I wanted to show you today. And this is my bed. It has my pride and joy, lily of the valley. And they are very hard to cultivate and very hard to find. And you got to find a friend to give them to you. I've had them here for a couple of years. I took them from my old house, And they have a beautiful white flower on them, tiny little delicate one with a fragrance that is just killer. Now they are starting to take over. I've already given away some to friends, and this little hosta, whose name is Guacamole, as you can see, it's got that color. He is going to need to go. He's going to have to move out, and we're going to have to find another place for him so that the lily of the valley can take over. And then, of course, in the front, have annual plantings. And pansies are always good in the south. I'm not a big pansy fan, but pansies and tulips in combination are usually quite showy. And then, of course, I've got my little alligator who keeps watch over my gardens. So this is it, people. This is my beautiful gardens in my backyard. From my wisteria plantings here, the whole way around my hot tub, lots of azaleas, my eucalyptus, the dogs playing in the background, the ladybanks rose, and more. Hello to the Wagelia.